Oh no, not another survey, or worse yet, no surveys at all. We've all been through those, right? We've taken a survey. The questions are weird. The survey's too long. It does nothing happens after the end. We don't know what's going on with it, but by gosh, the leadership team can check that box and they've got a survey done, an employee engagement or a culture or whatever the survey might be. So you're using employee surveys wrong. Now listen, stay till the end of this because I've got a free complimentary gift for you, so stick around. But I want to talk to you about the 8 ways you're using employee surveys wrong and I'll give you a few tips along the road. So let me turn to the next slide in my presentation. All right, no buy-in. That's the first thing, no buy-in. First of all, the leadership has to buy in to the use of a survey. It's not going to happen, right? You have to have sponsorship, as it's sometimes called. Sponsorship by your leadership team. That's incredibly important. And hopefully you have a culture advocate team. Now it looks like I crossed that out. A culture advocates team, a culture team, a group of employees from around the organization, throughout the organization. And I can help you put one together. I've worked with a lot of teams, but hopefully your culture advocates are bought into this as well and have been part of the process. Next thing is visible role models. Your leadership team, your culture advocates have to live the survey. They have to buy into the survey. Obviously, that's what we're talking about right now, but they also have to be there throughout the whole process of implementation and action steps and all the other things we're going to talk about. And also you have to train new leaders. Now you can't see the word leaders on here, but that says train new leaders, right? Some of you have been promoted and because you've done a good job and that's awesome, but have you been trained how to use the surveys? Have you been trained in leadership skills at all? So those are some critical things as well. That's how you're going to get buy-in. Let's find out number 2. Gosh, I love ripping those things off, throwing them down on my floor. Know why. Know why. That should be a big part not only of your life, but of your organization. Are you just checking a box? I mentioned that before. If you're just doing a survey because some $40,000 a month consultant came in and said you need that, that's not good. That's not going to help you, right? You're not checking a box. There has to be a why. There has to be a purpose. There has to be a reason. It has to fit in your mission, vision, and values. What are your objectives for the survey? Be specific about what your objectives are in the survey, right? What are the goals? What do you want to accomplish from the survey? What are the things you want to test? Every time you may do different surveys. You may do 4 different surveys throughout the year. Each survey maybe test something a little bit different. Don't make them long, arduous surveys, right? But let's use surveys the right way. And let's start by getting leadership buy-in and then making sure we know our why. I wonder what that looks like on the other side of the camera with that white sheet coming at you. Third issue, no relevancy, right? The questions don't make sense. They're not relevant to what our organization is about or maybe what we're even trying to change. So make sure your questions fit. Make sure your questions are concise. You don't need to have 5-paragraph questions. Keep it simple, concise, make it very clear to the reader what question you're trying to get. Have an 8th grader read it. Not that your employees are all 8th grade intelligence or your leaders, but make sure an 8th grader can read it. There are simple ways to do this. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. All right. But make sure, again, concise, clear, to the point, a nice, short survey. It doesn't have to be, it can be 10 questions, 10 simple questions. Make sure it has relevancy. The fourth, a lot of organizations, they have no confidentiality or they can't guarantee the confidentiality. If you want good answers, you want your employees to be able to answer anonymously and they can be guaranteed that those answers are going to be taken that way. So this doesn't become an evaluation form. It's a survey. It's an anonymous survey. And the data that you collect from it, you also want to make sure that that's anonymous as well. You don't want to be necessarily publishing all the data across the world. You can certainly share some things. Obviously, you want to share things internally. Maybe there's some things you want to share on social media or different ways you communicate in your newsletters to retired employees, whatever the case might be. But make sure we take care of confidentiality. Too often I've seen that being an issue in employee surveys. Now I mentioned the gift. Don't forget, stick around to the end. I've got a gift for you. It's complimentary. You can go to toddkukan.com oh shoot, I already said /guide. Anyway, well, I'll talk about it more at the end, but it's a great leadership tool for you. Oh shoot, you know what happened? We got this little corner up here. There, whoops, gosh, now there's a couple more. Hang on. We gotta make this look, there we go. Now it looks better. All right. No communication, number 5. That's the 5th way that employee surveys are often done wrong. No communication. You should communicate pre-survey. You should communicate during the survey. You should communicate after the survey, right? Communicate through the whole operation, through the whole system. Matter of fact, you probably want to have your marketing people develop a communication plan for your survey. Let people know it's coming. Let people know it's there. Have a scoreboard, how many people are replying to it or turning it in, right? And then post-survey, make sure that you're communicating afterwards. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Matter of fact, my next slide, no action plan. How many times have you done a survey with no action plan? Make sure it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely, right? Time bound. Specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, relevant, and time bound. Create an action plan that has those steps in it. So you're going to do specific things. You get that information, don't put it up on a shelf. What good does that do you? And then employees aren't going to trust you. You have to do something with the information. You have to share the information. You have to share the data in a meaningful way. You have to figure out how you're going to make change. Some of the change might take 3 years. Some of the change might take 3 weeks. Some of the change maybe you can't do, but at least communicate that with your employees. What's the plan that you're doing? And then make sure you have employee engagement. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the leadership team and the culture advocates, they have to buy into it, but you also have to make sure that the employees are engaged in this process, just like any strategic plan, just like you do for that. All right, let's look at number 7, I think. No monitoring, okay? Any plan, right? A survey, you create the action plan, you need to make sure you monitor progress, track progress, what's going on, let people know. Did things slow down? Maybe what you thought you could do in 3 weeks is going to take 6 weeks or 6 months. Maybe the thing you thought would take 3 years, you can now do in a year. So track progress, have some sort of a scoreboard. Let people know how you're progressing on things that you want to change as a result of what you learned through the survey. And think about you're going to continually improve, right? We have to make tweaks, just like a strategic plan. I've worked at a lot of companies under strategic plans. Is that right? Strategic, yeah, strategic. But they continue to change it, improve it, tweak it. Some of my best plans look completely different at the end than they did at the beginning. But if you don't start with a plan, how can you end with a plan, and how can you get anything done? And the last one, no technology. Number 8. Let me clean this up for us here. We're getting towards the end. All right. Technology can simplify your life. Right? Look at the technology I'm using, right? Maybe you need to use flip charts to do your surveys. I don't know, right? But make sure that you do something to simplify your life. It doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. Do something and make sure you're reporting back. And reporting back is so much easier when you use technology. So take advantage of what's out there. All right. Now, surveys, you should do surveys. You should do surveys regularly, however you define that, probably more than once a year, but at least once a year. Make sure you get your leadership involved, right? Make sure you take care of all these things that we talked about. And it'll be amazing how quickly your environment changes, how quickly your culture changes, and how quickly your leaders step up and really help change your organization and impact that bottom line. Have a great day.